Good evening, everyone. It is 5:30-ish on October 15, 2019, and we are continuing the review of the Focal Clear. Now, there's a lot of interest, at least for my channel, a lot of interest, about the Clears versus other headphones. And I've had the request to compare the Clear with the HD700, the Aeolus, and one other that I cannot remember at this point. So what I'm going to do, essentially, is a tick-tock type of review. So the tick was yesterday we conducted the test for the bass on the Clear, and the talk is going to be that today we're going to compare the bass between the Clear and the HD700. The next video is going to be the comparison of the bass between the Clear and the Aeolus, and then the one after that, whatever that third headphone is, and I totally forget. And then once those comparisons are done, just the bass, then we're going to move on to the mids, just the mids response on the Clear, and then the talk will be the HD700 versus the Clear on the mids, and etc., etc. That way we're getting out information about these headphones slightly quicker, but we're still getting the same number of videos. All right, so let's just move on. We're going to start with the three songs that we played for the bass. So we're going to keep the same consistent song. I have the THX monolith desktop amplifier plugged in on an A/B switch. We're not using the 789 because that's a little too far away. Frankly, there's no sound difference at all, discernible sound difference between the two, so this doesn't really change anything. Both headphones are plugged in using the 1/4 inch with an adapter to a 3.5 into the switch, and we're going to start each song at -30 decibels. The three songs that we have queued are Mountains, Dreamer, and Drum Solo. And hey, look, we've got 44 followers on our test playlist. That's fantastic. All right, so I've got the Clear on my head. Let's start with Mountains. Fairly low volume at -30, so I'm going to increase. I'm going to take it up to -20. We're now at -20. You can hear that low rumble, but it's fairly mute. Right at this point, it's not overpowering. You can hear it somewhere in the background. There's a hint of a rumble, like there's an oncoming thunderstorm, right? You hear the rolling thunder, right? And so it starts off really demure, calm, like there's nothing really going on. Nothing is going to happen. Everything is fine. But of course, with this song, that picks up pace, and all of a sudden in the middle, you have this giant crescendo. I'm going to increase the volume again to -15. The great thing about the Clear is even though you increase the volume, we went to -30 to -20 to now to -15, we've doubled the volume from 30 to 15. I get, right? Doubled it, 15 plus 15. And the character of the headphone is not changing. It's still clear. There's no coloration. There's no distortion. It's still the same except louder. And that's really what you want good headphones to do. They remain the same no matter what volume level you have. We're getting close to the crescendo, so I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. And the crescendo is coming up in just a moment. And remember I said that the ear cups shake, so let's listen for that. Yeah, absolutely crystal clear. Wonderful crystal clear sound. But I'm going to increase the volume again. This time to -10. Just a slight reverberation inside the ear cups. And it just feels like all of the organ, all the sound is encapsulating my ear. That I'm right in the middle of the thick of all this music. And there's a little bit of verticality in that it feels just a little bit like there's a bit of music coming from above down to me and all the way around my ear. So totally capturing everything around my ear. All right, so now let's switch to the HD700. All right, I've got the 700 on my head, and the first thing you will notice is that the 700 are substantially more open. I mean, the biggest difference I think is that the 700 don't really have a perfect seal around my ear, whereas the Clear does. The Clear's seal is a little bit tighter, and because of those thick, luscious, fantastic ear pads, it just caresses my head so that it blocks out more noise, external noise, than the HD700. Okay, so let's go. We're going to restart, and we're going to bring this volume back down to -30. Okay, we're at -30, and let's start again. And at -30, it sounds more quiet than the Clear 55 ohm. Obviously, that's the big difference. We're going to increase the -20 immediately. And that's still not loud enough for me, so I'm going to increase to -10. Okay, so at -10, we're fairly close to what the Clears were at -20. You can hear that low rumble, but it's definitely not as clearly defined as it is on the Focals. Indeed, the rumble on the HD700 is present, but noticeably less. So it feels thinner. There's no rumble. Sorry. So here's the difference, like rumble, right? Versus rumble. There is a noticeable difference. One has more body, the other one doesn't. The one that doesn't is the 700. Still clean, clear. The soundstage to me so far feels pretty much the same. I don't hear a soundstage increase in either. I'm going to skip forward to the crescendo halfway. I'm going to increase the volume to -5, which would be -15 equivalent on the Focal. So the HD700 is not as clean as the Focal. It's a bit muddy compared to the Clear. That low rumbly bass doesn't really have any body. It's a little bit more peaky in the treble ridge than the Clear, but it's not harsh in my opinion. Yeah, so the HD700 sounds more thin than the Clear. And by thin, I mean even at this max volume, this very high volume, -5 decibels, I don't feel as if I'm sitting in the middle and all the music is playing around me. I don't get that experience. Now, the music is encapsulating my ear the same way that the Clears did. But the Clears had more boost in the bass, they had more boost in the mid-range, and their treble was more controlled than it is on the 700. The 700's treble, even though it wasn't peaky or ear-piercing for me, it still sounded a little bit sharper than it did on the Clear. The other issue that I found is that there's a bit of muddiness involved in the song with the HD700. And going back and forth, I can tell you right now that the Clear certainly presents this song with a bit more definition, not a bit more, but definitely more definition than the HD700. I can't give you a number, I can't give you a percentage because that's all subjective. All I can say is that I really do hear a difference in clarity between the two, and the Focals are clearer overall. Now let's go back a little bit to the crescendo, and I want to listen for it again at -5 decibels on the 700. Here we go. And the crescendo starts right now. Yeah, there's some instruments that have more treble energy that are more peaky. I wouldn't call that cleaner or clearer. There's a difference in my book. Clarity means that you can hear everything. It's not that you hear everything, every nuance, detail. That's different. Clarity means that what is being presented through the headphone is not muddy. And with the HD700, there's a bit of muddiness involved. And the only thing that cuts through that muddiness at this portion of the song is that treble spike. But it's controlled treble spike, in my opinion. I don't think that it's harsh. It's just that's the only thing that I hear that with real definition. Whereas on the clear, I heard much more than just the treble spike. But let's go back a couple seconds and listen on the clear so that we can be absolutely sure. Okay, I've got the clear back on my head, and here we go. Volume is -12. Yeah. I feel as if everything that the clear is presenting is clearer, less muddy than it is on the HD700. The HD700 sounds really good for what it is, but it just sounds thin overall with the presentation of this song. All right, so because obviously both headphones will not perform perfectly well at -30, we're just going to start at -20 from here on out. And we are going to move on to Dreamer by Charlie XCX. Now, if you remember last time, I said that the focals made Dreamer sound good, which is a high remark for anything. And hopefully the HD700 can do the same. Okay, so we've got the clears on my head, and here we go. That low rumble, that fabricated, weird hip-hop, rumbly bass, sub-bass, is not distorted at all with the clear. Very well controlled. And we're going to get the vocals any second now. Here we go. That low, fabricated bass is very well controlled, not interacting with her voice at all. I can hear it as an emphasis, not the entire song. Let's increase the volume to -15. Perfect. Exactly linear response. Even at -15, where it's very loud now, I can barely hear myself speak. The voice on this artist, clearly audible, and the bass still well controlled. So it just increased the volume, but the way that the song is presented hasn't changed. One of the things that you realize with this type of song is that the bass here can truly distort very quickly with headphones that are bass heavy. It's like your neighbor's kid who has his 95 Honda Accord and he put these big bass units in the trunk of his car, and he thinks that's really cool. And all he does is sit there in the middle of the night blaring that music with the bass just going wah, wah, wah. That's the type of bass that a lot of headphones will produce with this song. But the clear, total opposite. It's just an element in the song. It's not the entire song. Okay. Even with the clear, I can only take the song so much. So we're going to switch to the HD700. Got the HD700 on my head. And we're going to go back and restart. I'm going to bring this down to -20 decibels. Perfect. Here we go. I don't really hear that low rumbly bass with the 700. And I heard it clearly with the focal. And now the vocal is going to start. It just sounds more muddy on the 700 than it did on the focal. I'm going to increase the volume to -15. I'm going to increase again to -10. And -10, it's about what -15 was for the focal. Yeah, that bass is more anemic on the 700 than it is on the clear. And her voice is more spiky and peaky and trebly, and it's not very good. It's just ear piercing. Yeah, there's a lot of treble spikes throughout her voice. And that bass that we were talking about, it's hardly an element. It's barely audible. So you could not find a more, day and night presentation of the bass on this song. So let's talk about Charlie XCX's Dreamer first. So the song has terrible vocals, terrible backup vocalists. It has this fabricated fake electronic bass, and it's a hip hop song in a club. That's basically all it is. And you're not really meant to listen to it as much as you are to just dance to it while you're absolutely drunk and you're trying to be fly with the honeys. You know what I mean? Well, the honeys don't really care because you look like a total fool on the dance floor. That's what Dreamer basically is. When you listen to this song on the Focal, everything sounds like there's substance to it. There is no haziness to the song. The bass is very well controlled. You hear it. You feel it just a little tiny bit when the vocals come in and the bass increases in volume. The vocals are absolutely clear. There is no muddiness at all. Indeed, even with the bass playing and the guitar playing and the weird synth stuff that's going on with this song, it still sounds really clean. When you put on the HD700, the bass immediately goes away. It's a night and day difference of the bass, where it's anemic. It's totally anemic on the 700 in comparison. Even with the volume at negative 10 decibels, and at the portion of the song where the bass actually picks up in volume, I can still barely hear it. The vocalist I can hear. It's not an issue. The issue is that the vocalist is spiky and peaky and just very, I wouldn't say harsh, but just not flattering. Her voice is not flattering, and the 700 simply will not help her any. So bigger difference I probably couldn't find with this comparison. The clears, I think, in my opinion, personal opinion, I think the clears definitely win if we're just talking about this song because of that presentation. Much more, dare I say, musical. All right, so let's switch back to the clear. Oops. I got the clear back on my head. And we're going to drum solo by Jack Bruce and Simon Phillips. We're going to bring this back down to negative 20. So there are a couple things we need to test on drum solo. Number one, at the beginning of the song, there's the crowd that's yelling and screaming. Does it get ear piercing? We did this test yesterday. It doesn't get ear piercing with the Focal. But obviously, we're going to need to find out with the 700. And then, what is the bass response? Are these drums visceral? Can I hear the drum falling out like boing, boing sound? And is it a fast decay? Those are the things we're looking for. Are you ready? Here we go. No peakiness with the audience. I'm going to increase the volume to negative 10. And I can hear the drum falling out a little bit. It's not emphasized, but it's clearly audible. Boing, boing. Instead of boing, it's boing. A little bit more subdued. Very fast decay if the drum hits. I'm going to increase the volume to negative 5. You could hear each and every drum strike. Very, very, I was going to say visceral. I'm very close to visceral. You can hear the air just being moved inside the ear cup. Yeah. And when I put my hand gently touch it against the ear cup, I can feel a vibration. Just a tiny hint of vibration. That's perfect. Because it's not overemphasizing, it's not distorting, crystal clear sound signature, and you can feel the drum. Absolutely fantastic presentation. All right, so bring it back down to negative 20, and we're going to switch to the HD700. Okay, got the 700 on my head, and let's go. So the audience was not peaky, probably because it's such a low volume for the 700. So let's restart at -10. Still not peaky, so good. The drums sound more muted. I think the sound of the drum falling out like boing boing is present, but it's much more muted on the 700. I'm going to increase to the -5. Increase again to -1.5. Very loud. Very fast decay. But those cymbal strikes are ear-piercing. Really loud. Incredibly loud. Not they don't hurt my ears, but boy, they're getting close. The bass response to drum hits are still very sharp, very precise. I could hear each and every single one, but they sound a little bit lighter than they did on the Clear, where the Clear just has more body to each drum strike. The 700 reproduces just the strike itself. The downward strike. Okay. Okay. I'm going to give myself tinnitus if I keep listening to it. All right. Bring this back down to normal listening levels. So for this song, here's the thing. When I said that it sounds lighter on the HD700, what I mean to say is that when the drummer hits on top of the drum hit, okay, you get that initial sound of the crack of the air being smacked on top of that drum hit. And you hear that very clearly on the HD700. But what you don't hear is the resulting drum itself, the housing of the drum, where all that air is. It's being pressed down. You get that boom, 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 right? There's this substance. That's what we call the body of the actual tone. And the HD700 really doesn't present the body. It presents the initial crack as the drumstick hits the head, but not so much of the body. In fact, I would say between the two, the Clear certainly has more substance to it, reproducing the drum strike. Okay? So what I'm going to do, just to test this, is that we're going to go back to about 45 seconds, and I'm going to listen to the HD700, then I'm going to switch to the Clear, and then tell you what I hear. Here we go. Let me increase the volume. And I'm going to keep volume at -5.5 for the 700. Here we go. Okay. Go back to 45 seconds. Switching to the Clear. Decrease the volume to -7.5. Here we go. Oh, absolutely. Night and day difference. Such a big difference. Yeah, no doubt in my mind. Huge difference. With the Clear simply has more body. You can hear the drum, the actual drum sound. Whereas with the 700, it's like, it's so close, please just give me the substance, and you don't give me the substance. And that's really what it comes down to. Let's talk conclusions, because I think the overall conclusion is going to tell us exactly what's what. So my conclusion is this. I think that for bass response between these two, the 700 and the Clear, the Focals just win. They have a better presentation. Now better, I mean, okay, so let me rephrase. Better is subjective. They have more body to each bass frequency that we've discussed. The sub bass, the mid bass, the treble that's part of the bass, right, with the drum strikes. More substance. You actually hear everything absolutely clearly. Everything from beginning to end. That doesn't mean you hear all the details, but what the details you can hear are absolutely clear. No haziness, no muddiness, no distortion, none of it. The 700 in comparison are anemic in bass. They cannot reproduce the low sub-bass rumble. Even at high volume, you're struggling to hear it. With the drum strikes, you hear the smack, smack, because that's more of the treble energy than it is the bass frequency. And it really doesn't reproduce the body of the drum hits. With a song like Dreamer, the 700 didn't accentuate the bass at all, which was good because that bass could give you a headache after a while. But it does have that harshness in the treble region. With a voice like Charlie XCX, gets really painful. And if you listen to that type of music and you are treble sensitive, then listening to it with this is not going to be a pleasant experience for you. In comparison, when you have the clear on your head, you feel the bass, you can hear the bass very clearly, which is cleanly different from her voice, which doesn't have the treble spikes, which doesn't have the harshness to it. And so, in conclusion, I think the clear are a much better headphone. Now, this is a subjective opinion, much better headphone of the two when we're talking about bass. But if you're the type of person that says, look, I don't really want the bass, I just want to, I don't like bass. Whatever reason, I don't like bass. Then the 700 is good because you still get fairly clean and clear sound. You get the same amount of soundstage. The detail retrieval is not quite the same. I think the clear have better detail retrieval. Part of that might just be because the clear are not veiled sounding in comparison to the 700, where the 700 in some respects does sound a little bit distorted, a little bit hazy, depending on what song you're listening to. But you may be the type of person that says, I like the clear or the 700 because it sounds open. It is. About the same soundstage though. Sounds open. I don't really want to hear that bass rumble. I just want to hear the energy. And this will give it to you. It'll give you the midtones and it'll give you a lot of that treble energy. So it really just comes down to your preference. Between the two, the more rounded headphone, out of this test alone, okay, we're not talking about all the tests. We haven't done the mids and the treble yet, but the more rounded headphone sounded like the clear because it just presented everything more, like I said, musically. I hope that this has been of some help, that if you are considering between the 700 and the clear, now maybe you have a little bit more information to make your judgment call. Now, the clear is very expensive, obviously, $1,500 MSRP, but you will find it for much cheaper if you hunt for it on eBay and other websites. Go to Reverb, go to US Audio Mart, go to other equivalents in whatever country you live in. If there are trustworthy equivalents, go there. You will absolutely find these things for cheaper than the MSRP, as you will almost anything. So if you're concerned that, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can afford a clear, but I really want it, hunt for it. And if you really want it, you will likely be able to find it eventually, assuming your price range is reasonable. If this has been of some help, if you think that my videos are helpful at all, then maybe I hope that you would consider donating a couple of bucks to me a month. Just $2 a month would help me save up money so that I can buy new products and test them and give you my thorough review process. I currently have 9 fantastic, wonderful, very giving and generous patrons who give me a couple of bucks of their hard-earned money every month, and truly I do appreciate everything that they do. If you would like to join their ranks and be a part of the family, I would truly appreciate it. If you like these videos but you haven't subscribed, hey, maybe you'll consider subscribing. I found out today I've got 540 subscribers. We're 60 away from the 600, and I'd love to get there as soon as I possibly can. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want me to review a product I currently own, then please look at the review request form in the description below, and I will get to that request as soon as I possibly can. I hope that you all have a wonderful, amazing, fantastic night, and amazing rest of your weekend. And the next time we do this comparison, it's going to be between the clear and I think the Aeolus, but I have to go and check because I keep forgetting which headphones. Take care.